It's often said that in the old days, tires were skinny and drivers were fat. Now it's the other way around. There's no question that fitness is a key component in being a winning driver today. All of today's best drivers are all extraordinarily fit, and Jim Leo is a man who has trained many of them. IndyCar champions Scott Dixon and Dario Franchitti, Penske Racing's Will Power, and NASCAR's Casey Kane, to name just a few.
You know, there's a lot of money being spent on this sport. It's your parents, it's your team, it's a sponsor. You know, if you get out there and you're showing up not in shape, then you're letting a lot of people down. And that, you know, the fans, they don't want to see a guy fall out of the car like that. So it's your obligation to take it upon yourself to go to the next level. You can't be one of the people, one of the drivers who tends to sit back and let it happen. You've got to make it happen.
I think for me, there was a key transition when I turned about 16 or 17, where I really, started kicking up my, physical side and training a lot more. And mentally, it just helps you so much more in the car when you're not thinking about how you sore your hands are, or if you're out of breath or getting tired towards the end of the race.
When do people make mistakes in a race car? What phase of the race? Usually the start or on a restart, but the end, they get tired. They get fatigued. The mind starts to wander a little bit. The central nervous system tends to fade. So we tend to find that the drivers, the better shape they're in throughout the race, the less chance they're going to make a mistake.
Fitness is more important than ever. You have to maintain your mental focus, and if you're not physically fit, then your mental side starts to fade because you're thinking about your back hurts, or you're out of breath, or you need a break, or it's hot in the car. So if you can do your homework during the week and really be prepared physically, then you can be that much better mentally.
What will happen, and you'll see this if you go out to a track, especially a go-kart track, I notice this a lot, where there's a lot of laps, a lot of high fatigue laps. The drivers will hit the same line, the same apex over and over and over again. And at some point, some of them will drift. Some of them will miss that line. They'll get in the grass. If you go out to Newcastle, you see that all the time. A lot of times they can't hang on to the wheel. They're just too doggone tired to hang on to the wheel. Does that mean you need to be a big bodybuilder? The big joke we have is, how much does it take to lift the trophy over your head? Not that much. So you need to train for your sport. So you've got to kind of look at the situation of the series you're in and train at that intensity. We have guys running the 500, guys and girls, the 500. We have other drivers doing shifter car races. We have sprint car racers. We have drag racers, all very different in what they do. The length of time they're in the car has a huge effect on how we train them. The 500 drivers, they're not going to do as much high-intensity training leading up to the 500 because they're kind of stuck in this cruising zone where they've got to get focused. We'll focus more on concentration skills for long periods of time. But if you're racing sprint cars, man, you're out there 15, 20 minutes at the most, pow, 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 fast, get out, do your thing, get back in the car. Go do your thing, get back in the car. That's where nutrition and everything falls into play.
Go ahead and start passing GT cars, man. They're still giving away around.
It is crucial for you to choose a variety of activities of what you do. I cannot tell you how many drivers suddenly get this huge excitement over a particular sport, cycling, for example, or weightlifting, and they focus on that. Here's the crazy thing. You're training to be a race car driver, okay? If you get so focused on one particular activity, you're limiting yourself in some other capacity. If you're deciding you want to deadlift 400 pounds, well, you're probably losing flexibility in the hips. You're losing your stamina, I can assure you of that. If you're focusing on being there's a lot of drivers right now that the big thing is triathlon. And that's, everybody's tweeting about doing triathlons, which is actually a nice little compliment because it does incorporate 3 different activities. So I actually do like that, but are you doing any strength training? Are you focusing on your neck at all? You have to find these things and never really get into a routine of one thing over the other. The hallmark of our program is the variety. The drivers come in and every day they're doing goofy things. You know, we use sledgehammers and we do treadmill work, and then we do rock climbing, we swim, we do hot yoga. I mean, it's a nonstop crazy situation. And it looks like it's uncontrolled, it's unorganized. It's not at all. There's very specific paths that we have with every single driver. At the end of the day, they show up to the track. Their stamina is fantastic. Their strength is exactly where it needs to be. The flexibility, the heat tolerance, concentration, reaction, it's all come together. But if you had focused on one sport, you wouldn't have that. Something would be left behind. So you want to choose a lot of exercises that work together, and you can mix in cardiovascular training, you can mix in strength training, you can mix in core training, anything you want to do, reaction training, all into one whole package, and you nonstop through it.
Full course yellow, stay out.
Dehydration is a huge problem, and if you're losing electrolytes for the most part, Gatorade is a good source of electrolyte replenishment. Is he losing enough in the race to need to replenish it with Gatorade? That's questionable. Your body has a lot of stores of that. I'd say Gatorade's a good choice. We use a drink called Accelerate, has a little protein added into it, and that's just they're not a sponsor. That's our preferred choice of drink. Gatorade's a good choice to throw the sugar and some of the electrolytes back in there throughout the day, but he probably is not drinking enough water. Honestly, if he's getting dehydrated, hydration starts well before a race weekend. You should be leading up to the race drinking more and more water throughout the days beforehand. But I'd say if you're going to drink Gatorade, my only knock on a drink like Gatorade or Powerade, the high sugar concentration can sour your stomach. So we tell our drivers, okay, I like the taste of Gatorade, but I know I can't drink 15 bottles of it, which we've seen. So what do I do? Well, dilute it. Buy a bottle of Gatorade, pour half into another bottle, pour other half of the water. You can sip that all day long. The concentration is not so high that it sours your stomach, that the sugar affects your blood sugar too much, but it gets the fluid back into your system. And I guarantee every go-kart track you go to has either Powerade or Gatorade. It's one or the other.
For me, being safe and being fast, or safe as fast, is definitely about being prepared to get into the race car. You know, coming into it, being physically prepared, making sure that you're strong. Also from a mental standpoint, not having other distractions. And that all really kind of wraps itself around being prepared in general. So, you know, for me, safe as fast is always about being prepared to get into the race car.